Hello there, I'm Louise Doughty. I'm the author of 9 novels. Can I start that again? Hello there, I'm Louise Doughty. I'm the author of 9 novels, most recently Platform 7, which is published by Faber and Faber, out in paperback now. I'm probably best known for Apple Tree Yard because it was adapted as a 4-part series for BBC television starring Emily Watson.
The only person I can talk to about you is you.
I realised that something that's very bad for writing, and I think concentration in general, is uncertainty. But I'd certainly got to the point as a writer where, when I was working on a full-length work of fiction, I could sit at the laptop and I could more or less make the dog bark on command. I felt confident. I could ride the bike with no hands. And now I've taken on a screenwriting project. And of course, I'm back to being a beginner, which is more than a little scary. But I've got a great development team and a fantastically helpful producer who's holding my hand through every step of the way. And of course, the thing I loved about the screenwriting project before coronavirus struck is that it was a collaborative medium. And I really, really enjoyed the meetings, all those things that other writers moan about, like the breakfasts in Soho.
So this is my desk, and there's my many beverages. There's always a collection of beverages on my desk. And here is my balancing bird. I do quite enjoy spying on the neighbours. I'm really very fond of this balancing bird. Oh. So this reading is from the end of the middle section of Platform 7. In the first section of Platform 7, we've seen Lisa as a ghost on Peterborough railway station trying to unravel the mystery of her death. Then in the middle section, we've gone back in time and we've met her as a living person and her relationship with a young junior doctor, Matthew. And it's a relationship that's gradually become more and more toxic, and it's become very much about gaslighting, about manipulation, and about coercive control. During this passage, we learn a great deal more about the events that led up to her death. And the short passage I'm going to read is at the very end of that middle section. After this, we will come back to the present day when she's a ghost again, but with the full knowledge of how she died. And this is one night she's woken up and the relationship with Matty has deteriorated, and she gets up in the little flat that they share and he isn't in bed beside her. And she goes out to the sitting room and she finds that he's sitting cross-legged on the floor, and he's opened some doors to a little Juliet balcony that they have looking out over the grass in the middle of the night. And this is what happens as Lisa approaches him. I walked closer to him, my bare feet soundless on the carpet. I stood behind him, no more than a metre away, and looked down. I noticed for the first time that there were the faintest signs of his hair thinning at the crown. It was as if his much older self was layered over his present self in that moment, in that pose. Still motionless, he seemed at once an old man and a young boy sitting on the floor, thinking and waiting for something. In the Matthew of now, I could see Matthew as a child and Matthew as an elderly person, the whole of him encapsulated in that one translatable pose. I took another step towards him. Still, he did not turn, although I was close enough for him to hear my breathing now. What is it about us? Women, I mean, that we are so tender when men drop their guard just for a moment and let their capacity for weakness show? Is it some deeply imprinted desire to mother, or is it simply that it feels like such a relief to get a glimpse of their susceptibility and to know that in that moment the tables are turned? Looking down at Matthew, and seeing the young him and the old him together at once, I was filled with the desire to kneel down behind him and take him in my arms, to wrap my arms around his chest from behind and rest the side of my head against the side of his, and rock him, comfort him. Perhaps he would cry a little then, and turn to me. Perhaps it was all going to be okay. This might have happened, but before it could happen, he spoke. He stayed motionless, but his voice was clear in the darkness. It was plain and cold. I'm not good for you. There was something about the simplicity with which he spoke. No games, no provocations, just a simple fact. The truth of it made me feel gripped by fear, a sensation as real and as physical as if someone was squeezing my heart in their fist. I did not know what to say. If I agreed with him, it meant the end of our relationship, there and then, yet any contradiction of what he said would be a lie, and we both knew it. As I stood there, trapped in that moment, I could not even explain my own fear to myself, the heat that rose to my face, for it was more than fear, of course, it was foresight. I knew that whatever happened between Matthew Goodison and me, from now on, it was going to end, and end badly. There was no way out of this that would not entail unpleasantness. It was just a question of what form it would take and how bad it would be. I stood there for a long time. He sat in silence, his back to me, looking out over the garden, outside. There was nothing. No sound and no movement. Only darkness, the plain square of grass, the empty benches, the austere and unforgiving night.
Cornwall and Devon have very happy memories for me because we went on childhood holidays there. I'm sure lots of your writers are saying that. We never stayed in hotels or went on aeroplanes. It was 2 weeks in a caravan, which the rest of the time was parked on some paving slabs next to our house. And it was always a great adventure, loading the caravan up. I know all us kids, there were 3 of us, had our own lockers. We had sort of caravan food. Caravan hot pot my mum used to make, which was a tin of vegetable soup, a tin of those tinned potatoes, you know, those little slimy things, and a tin of corned beef, and they would all go in the saucepan together and be called caravan hot pot. We absolutely loved it. And then we would drive down from the East Midlands, and getting to Devon or Cornwall, starting to drive down the small lanes with the high hedges. We just adored every minute. We would go to sometimes pebbly beaches. And when our daughter was a baby, the very first holiday we had with her when she was 6 months old was to Cornwall. It was to Polperro. And we stayed in a little tall house that sort of dropped into the harbour, and that was the first place we took our baby daughter. So yeah, I have a very, very fond attachment to the southwest for those reasons. I'll see you at North Cornwall Book Festival.